Republican Governor Rick Perry has a very simple message for businesses in blue states. Come on down to Texas. He's already made his pro-growth pitch in California, Illinois, Connecticut. Today he's in New York. Take a listen.
Why have more jobs and businesses moved to Texas than any other state? Our state is #1 for business because we have no state income tax. Texas was ranked #1 for business for the 9th straight year by Chief Executive Magazine and has added more jobs than any state in the nation over the last 5 years. If you're tired of the same old recipe of overtaxation, overregulation, and frivolous litigation, get out before you go broke. Texas is calling. Your opportunity awaits.
All right, we're back here with Texas Republican Governor Rick Perry. Okay, first of all, that was run in the New York City TV market, right?
Yes, sir.
And in the other places, correct me if I'm wrong, California, Illinois, when you went in there, you ran radio ads?
And radio ads in California when we first went in there in February. We had some a little more expanded media type, some print media, some radio going into Illinois. This was the first market because, #1, New York is a harder sell.
Right.
New York's a harder sell, but it's also a major media market, as we know. So to go in there with a substantial media buy, a visual TV buy, was a bold step, but I think a right step to help do two things. #1, I'm not bashful about telling the story of Texas and that businessmen and women could keep more of what they work for with a state like Texas that has a relatively low tax burden, a regulatory climate that's fair yet predictable, that legal system in place that doesn't allow for oversuing, and then a skilled workforce. Then get out of the way and let the private sector do what it does best, which is create those jobs, which create the wealth.
All right, so those are your basic message points. I just wanted to ask you about the media blitz because it's unusual. It's unusual. I don't think anybody can remember a governor of another state coming into a state. The other governors were very peeved, from what I gathered. Jerry Brown was very peeved. Quinn was very peeved in Illinois. I take it Malloy in Connecticut was a little more civil, but very unhappy with it. And I heard Cuomo's gone ballistic with this whole story. Now, you're trying to shake them up, and you're trying to say, here's how we're doing it. Is that the New York Post accused you of poaching New York companies? That was the word they used, poach.
I know poaching. Okay. Poaching is, if you look it up in the dictionary, it says an illegal taking of something. This isn't illegal. This is competition. I don't think the New York Jets call it poaching when they come to Dallas to play the Cowboys. It's called competition.
Right.
And that's what we're all about. And I hope people will civilly take a look at that and have a discourse about, are red state policies the right policies for your state, or the blue state policies work better for you? This isn't bashing any state. This is just bringing up the clear differences in tax, regulatory, legal policies and the skilled workforce in these states and compromise, or I should say, comparing them to each other.
So you're not saying, when you meet with these governors, I guess you haven't met with all the governors.
No, Governor Malloy came by and very graciously welcomed me to his state.
Connecticut, right.
I appreciated him doing that.
But when you meet with businessmen, you're not saying to them, get out of this goofy, dumb state. You're saying, here are our advantages. Here's the better way to do it. You want to be more profitable. You want to help shareholders. We can do that down in Texas for A, B, C, D, and E. Is that sort of a positive message?
It is. And the reason that we did it this way is because the fact is we have found over the course of the last 6, 7 years that if we just wait on the mainstream media or the business journals to let that message distill out across the country, you're not going to penetrate. We penetrated with this media buy. People are talking about this. Businessmen and women came to Hill Country Barbecue there on West 26th today to meet, to talk, to test drive. Let's go talk to this governor and his businessmen and women that came to New York with him and find out what are some of the options out there. And listen, Rick Scott from Florida, Bobby Jindal from Louisiana, Governor Martinez from New Mexico and Mary Fallin from Oklahoma, I can promise you they are looking at tax, regulatory, and legal policies that they can go talk to businesses in Texas and try to lure to their
Sam Brown
state.
back in Kansas.
You betcha.
Scott Walker
yes,
up in
sir.
Wisconsin. And you're also a right-to-work state, are you not?
in Colorado.
You're a right-to-work state.
Oh,
right?
yes, sir, we are.
All right. What about...
But let's compete. That's what this is about. I don't have a problem with those governors coming to Texas and trying to lure our businesses away because it will make me go back and do something like we did in 2011, which was pass loser pay to make Texas be even more competitive on the legal side.
What do you do with the criticism that, okay, people know Texas is outperforming, creating a lot of jobs, but it's all about oil. It's all about the oil and gas, and now particularly the shale revolution.
Right.
What's your reaction?
Listen, I wouldn't trade the oil and gas industry for anything, but it is a smaller percentage today of our gross state product than it was in 1984. Texas economy is very, very diversified. It's medical technology. It is manufacturing. It is a across the spectrum growth in job creation. We've not only those in every sector of the market. When you talk about wages, we lead the nation in that. 30% of all the new jobs created in the last decade were created in Texas, Larry.
Yeah, that's an amazing stat. And I remember when you were running, that was an amazing stat. But people also say they're low-paid jobs, that they're lousy wages in Texas because it's not a union state. How do you respond to that?
But that's not correct. When you look at, we lead the nation in all sectors, every spectrum of the wage areas. We lead the nation in that. So it's high-paying jobs. It's middle-paying jobs. Yes, we've got some low-paying jobs. But I'll tell you what, individuals that are working realize that they're not going to start out as the CEO of a business, and they've got entry-level jobs, and those are growing as well.
So let me get this right. I'm a simple-minded guy. I want to get this right. You're up here in New York. You're saying that middle-class people get about the same wages as New York and Texas, but Texas doesn't have an income tax. Who's the winner? That's sort of, is that the point? It's not a hard point. I just want to say, is that the right point?
That is a point. Well, not only you don't have that, the cost of living is incredibly different. When you take what somebody in New York would say is a low-wage job, but what that can buy in the state of Texas is substantially more in housing and other ways to spend it. So,
all right, so you're ready to welcome in. Before we quit this segment, you're coming back to the next segment. Have you actually recruited? Have you, in this whole trip, California, Illinois, etc., here in New York, Connecticut, have you actually recruited, quote unquote, have you poached any businesses to come down to Texas?
I don't think we poached any, but we've certainly convinced some people to expand and to relocate to the state of Texas.
They're going to come down, visit with you down there?
Right, well, they already are. The California companies are already starting to make that move. We're in contact with companies out of Illinois now, and I'm sure that, you know, I'm not going to pack up some businesses while I'm here and help them load up their U-Haul and head to Texas over the course of tomorrow.
Unless they want you to.
Well, my instinct is they will continue to go through a thoughtful process of where is the best place for us in this country. You know, the weapons manufacturer is a great example of it. They are looking at a very unfriendly climate over in Connecticut and in New York, to some cases, and they're going through a thoughtful process of where do we relocate if that is our decision.
All right, let me jump out. We're going to come right back with another segment on this. I want to remind everybody, by the way, that according to CNBC's ranking, Texas was the top state for business in 2012. New rankings are coming out soon. Go to topstates.cnbc.com to see if Texas keeps the top spot in the next rating. Now, Governor Perry's just staying with us for a couple more minutes. I've got a penetrating, ultra-surprise question for him. Stay with us. You're going to love it. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm still here with Texas Governor Rick Perry. Governor, you're traveling around the country with a great free market, pro-growth message, and you're making waves. I'm going to ask you a direct question, but not yet. Stay with me on
That's that ultra-surprise question?
Ultra-surprise. New York State, you spent some time in the city and so forth. This is a state that, despite 3 EPA studies that endorsed the fracking, oil and gas fracking, Pennsylvania's been doing it, the Marcellus Shale. This state won't do it. This governor, Andrew Cuomo, won't do it. And most people believe that the reason Cuomo won't do it is because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has a coalition of left-wing greenies, and they're running millions of dollars of advertisements in upstate New York to stop the governor from endorsing the fracking, which would get New York out of a depression. What do you think about that? I mean, this to me is an act of cowardice, not courage.
Well, certainly, if you have the opportunity to put your people in your state to work in a safe and thoughtful way, why wouldn't you do that?
The EPA has given them 3 passes at this thing and said it's okay.
Hydraulic fracturing has been proven, certainly in my state. Let me just run some numbers by what it could mean. I mean, it's 11.3 $6 billion in gross state product. That's just the Eagle Ford shale down in South Texas. There is another shale formation that has been found over in kind of north central Texas that may have 3 times more oil in it than what the Eagle Ford has. We're talking multiple tens of billions of dollars of gross state product, putting families to work in areas of New York State.
Which have been in a virtual depression for decades.
50 years.
For decades. It's incredible.
Since World War II, I was to you.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
So the opportunity to do that is beyond me.
And they've done it in Pennsylvania. I've had Governor Ed Rendell, Democrat, former head of the Democratic National Committee. Rendell's been on this show several times, strongly endorsing the shale decisions that he made while he was governor. And by the way, the state gets its take on this also. People get rich. Oh, my gosh. One last question. You're all over the country. You're running these ads, radio, television. You got your free market message. So the deep and penetrating question is, will you run for president?
Yeah. I'll make a decision sometime later in the year. I've got to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to run for re-election to the governorship of Texas.
And will you?
By the end of the month, I'll most likely give that answer.
By the end of June, you're going to make a decision?
By the 1st of July.
All right. If you decide not to run again for governor, and you've been governor a while, you've been the longest-serving governor in Texas.
Yeah, I'm moving on 13 years now.
All right. If you don't go and run for governor, might you still run for president?
Well, certainly it's an option out there, but again, no decisions are made. I'm really interested in continuing to have this conversation with the country about red state versus blue state policies and recruiting businesses to the state of Texas. That's how America gets stronger, Larry. I mean, the fact is this is straight up about competition. If we force states to change their tax or regulatory policies, if Governor Scott or Governor Jindal or one of those other governors come in and change policies in their state, if Sam Brownback goes and gets rid of his income taxes, then that's the type of pressure that
I don't know of any other governor who's actually gone to the other states to carry the message. That's what makes this particularly interesting
and particularly effective. I hope that's the bottom line. Advertising works.
Happens to be the message of this program. Free market capitalism is the best path to prosperity.
And it works.
Governor Rick Perry, it is great.
Kudlow, it's always good to be with you, sir.